For 7 years, a master plan designed to reshape the future of South Asia has been sitting on a desk, gathering dust. It is the Eminent Persons Group report. Drafted by top officials from both nations, it was meant to be the blueprint for 21st century relations between Nepal and India. But despite repeated pleas from Kathmandu, New Delhi refuses to receive it, trapping the document in an endless diplomatic freeze. To understand why a single document is so radioactive, you have to leave the diplomatic tables in the capital and look at the physical reality of the border. Up in the northwestern mountains, the regions of Kalapani, Lipulekh, and Limpiyadhura operate as heavily militarized zones, occupied by Indian security forces. The people living there, the indigenous citizens of Darchula, hold historical records showing they paid land taxes directly to the Nepali government in 1940. But today, they are treated as stateless residents on their very own land, their daily movements restricted by foreign troops. The practical result of this diplomatic silence is that the historical anomalies on the border are never legally resolved. As long as the EPG report remains shelved, the movement restrictions in Darchula are allowed to become a permanent feature of life, effectively leaving the rights of the people living there in a state of indefinite suspension. The legal baseline for this entire region goes back to the 1816 Sugauli Treaty. That agreement explicitly defined the Kali River as the strict western boundary of Nepal. To find where a river actually begins, international law relies on the science of hydrology. You measure the total watershed area, the physical length of the streams, and the average volume of water flowing through them. This diagram shows the Kali River watershed. Data proves Limpiyadhura's flow has the most volume and distance, the true Kali River. Yet British cartographers ignored this, shifting the name eastward onto the smaller Lipulekh, artificially annexing 400 square kilometers. That 19th century deception on paper is the foundation for New Delhi's modern-day territorial claims. The current border crisis is the result of lines falsely drawn by an empire over a century ago, which modern India now aggressively defends as geographic fact. When India gained independence, it locked in its regional dominance by signing the 1950 Peace and Friendship Treaty with Nepal's outgoing autocratic Rana regime. It heavily compromised Nepal's sovereignty. And while successive Nepali governments have requested to revise the agreement, New Delhi has responded with a prolonged strategic silence. Up in the mountains, India is not the only superpower operating in the disputed territory. China is heavily involved in Lipulekh. Between 1954 and 2015, Beijing and New Delhi signed 6 separate agreements to develop the Lipulekh Pass exclusively as a bilateral trade and military transit route. In every one of those trade pacts, Nepal, the sovereign owner of the land, was completely bypassed and ignored by both giants. Nepal is caught in a trilateral squeeze, watching its 2 massive neighbors quietly collude to use Nepali land for their own mutual economic and strategic benefit. This mounting pressure eventually forced the creation of the EPG. The breaking point came in 2015 when India expressed its displeasure with Nepal's new constitution by imposing a devastating 6-month economic embargo. To repair the relationship, the EPG was formed. Their finalized report contains explosive recommendations. It calls for scrapping the lopsided 1950 treaty and fixing the unregulated porous borders that allow for encroachment. The geopolitical reality is harsh. Nepal cannot win a military conflict against the Indian army, and simply printing updated political maps in Kathmandu will not force foreign troops to abandon their mountain posts. Nepal's most potent weapon is moral diplomacy. By utilizing the science of hydrology and exposing the exact historical maps that manipulated the border, Nepal can build an undeniable case under international law. Foreign policy experts argue that the Nepali government must stop waiting for New Delhi's permission. They recommend unilaterally publishing the EPG report, submitting it directly to the Nepali parliament and the world. By making these findings public, Nepal can transform a dusty, ignored dossier into an instrument of intense international moral pressure. It forces the border dispute out of the shadows and onto the global stage.